As the global financial landscape evolves, fintech is becoming a powerful tool for driving inclusive growth, particularly in emerging markets. I had an engaging panel discussion with leading fintech women in the continent on developing fintech for inclusive growth, unlocking investment for financial inclusion, and breaking barriers and unlocking opportunities in Africa's fintech sector. We explored how fintech can address challenges in underserved regions and also the strategies needed to unlock its potential. Let's dial in.
If you talk about inclusive growth, I think the first thing that I would like to say is that that is a growth that carries everybody along, and that's something that the fintech space has done very well for financial services, bringing out products, innovations that can help carry everybody along, that nobody's left behind. And most times when we talk about carrying everybody along, most people think that people are excluded because of financial challenges, right? People are financially challenged. But I think there's this exclusion that comes from being socially challenged. There's exclusions that comes from being educationally challenged. There's exclusions that come from being physically challenged. And the kind of growth we are looking for is how fintech can help ensure that everybody's carried along regardless of that challenge. And what are the ways they can do that? The first thing, which is something that has been spoken a lot about in the last 2 days, is collaboration. We have 54 countries in Africa. Nobody's going to get 54 licenses. Nobody's going to do switch and payment processing and credit and insurance. Nobody's going to be able to do all of that. So we're going to have to learn to collaborate. I was listening to the PAPS session yesterday, and there was a diagram that they showed where they had sender, institution, PAPS, institution, receiver. So while PAPS is building the rail for the payment, they are building it on the back of collaboration and partnership with other stakeholders. And the second thing I would say would be we'll need to build customer-centric products and services, right? So before, many years ago, if you looked at the traditional banks, they had their products, current account, savings account, maybe credit. You had to fix your financial needs to suit those those products, right? But today, we need to be going to the customer to say, what are your pain points? There's no one size fits all that would include everybody, right? So you need to be going to the customer to say, how can I help you? What can I solve for you using technology? How can I include you in financial services? So that's the second thing I think that we can do. The third one is implementation. There's been a lot of talk in this week, and I'm sorry if I'm going over time, but there's been a lot of talk. So one thing is clear, we are not unaware of what the problems are. We're not unaware of what we need to do to solve the problems, right? What we need to do is to start to implement, right? There's been a lot of talk, there's been about what the issues are, what we need to do. Someone said it's the willpower that we lack. Then let's do it, right? Let's start to do those things. I know that the AFCA Digital Trade Protocol Agreement has been recently signed, which is good. Getting the paper down, it's okay, but then let's implement. That's one of the ways that we can make sure that everybody's carried along.
Indeed, implementation and also the role of partnerships and collaborations that you have rightly put in there. So, which drives us to investment. Fadilah, this is where you come in place, because unlocking investment for fintech growth is very vital. So, from where you sit, what are some of the strategies that we are seeing in terms of attracting investment in the fintech space?
Thank you so much for having me, Tabitha. One thing that I would like to highlight is that ABAN, the African Business Angel Network, has been at the forefront of driving and unlocking local capital. And since we established ourselves in 2015, we have been able to build and inspire angel investor to become capital provider into the African ecosystem, innovation ecosystem. And the role that they have played so far has been providing capital, the early stage capital that is much needed, guidance to the startup to build capacity, but also mentorship to give them access to markets. And I'm really happy to say that today on the continent, ABAN is a community of 75 angel network across 37 African countries. And last year, we were able to deploy together $22.5 million. What does this mean for our economy, for our startup ecosystem? It simply means that today we have a pool of individuals on the continent who believe in the power of innovation and who can commit capital. The first initial capital that is much needed for these companies to build a prototype, to create traction that would further later on attract additional type of fundings. So that has been what we have seen in market, and we continue to amplify that. And we're also seeing a lot of other players that have joined the game by providing capital, different types of capital. We have multiple funds, VCs, that are coming to in market to continue to support this movement. And of course, fintech has been at the heart of our innovation, right, on the continent. And I'm really happy, sitting from an investment side, that fintech these days is no longer about providing affordable loans, focusing to SMEs, but also about how do we create those saving products that are much needed and making it as accessible as possible to people who have a digital mobile phone. So this is the beauty about fintech, and we believe that, as you said earlier, it's really about inclusivity, making sure that everyone has access, because the opportunity will be given to them given the tools that already exist. And the angel investors on the continent are ready, happy, and we believe in the power to empower and unlock further capital to support our ecosystem.
Access, that's a very important point that you raised there, which drives us to how best we can overcome barriers. Access is there, but how best can you overcome barriers and at the same time create opportunities in Africa for fintech to thrive? Lady, you take.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Tabitha, for hosting us. So I think I will start by what my fellow colleagues have insisted on in terms of collaboration and investment. So us at ML Corporate Services, we were registered by the central bank in Rwanda to operate as a trust company service provider. We were among the first Rwandan one to be licensed. And the reason why we decided to go for that journey is because we were looking at the entire ecosystem and we were trying to find innovative solution in terms of tapping into those opportunities where we can connect, we can collaborate, and mostly facilitating those fintech coming into the market. We are also there to see how things have been moving quite quickly and what is the importance of the fintechs for us in Africa. So when we talk about the barriers, I think Nika and Fadilah have touched on in terms of our disparities when it comes to the African continent, where you have a lot of very fragmented ecosystem in terms of legal framework, where you need to move from one place to another, starting everything from scratch, which is really a pain for the fintech when it comes to scalability, because we still face issues in terms of interoperability, digital infrastructure. But when you see where we are today after more than 20 years, what the fintech have been able to achieve, we believe that we are on a good track. So we can give the example, for example, in Rwanda, what we managed to do in terms of building a strong ecosystem where collaboration is really key, from the public and government sector to the partnership with the private sector. So through the KIFC, the Kigali International Financial Center, you can raise those investors where Ms. Fadilah was talking about. She's also a member, and she's also displaying those investments through the fintech. Then we have other private players like Moment Holding, who are serving the different communities, especially underserved, not only in Rwanda but beyond. And there we have service provider as such, where we do the matching in terms of structuring, because compliance and governance has been also an issue for those fintech. So when you are not ready, it's difficult then to go and look for investment. So how do we make sure that from step one to the second one, like being educated, having the compliance with the different regulator, then we look for investment, then we are able to scale. So Rwanda has recently signed with Ghana a new licensing passport, actually, where if you are operating in Ghana, you don't need to come here in Rwanda and start the new process. And it's a very good example in the sense of what Africa needs to go for. And this is really how even forums like this are really important, because it gives a lead and push the others to go on the same way. We have also other initiatives like in the Rwanda Innovation Fund, where Rwanda has been able to attract different investors dedicated mostly for fintech, not only to serve the Rwandan one, but also across the continent. And now we have also the project of the Kigali Innovation Center, where it's really a full ecosystem, exactly what the other jurisdictions are doing, where our small fintech can scale, and having everything in place from VCs, from investors, building capacity as well, because if you don't strengthen all those systems, it will be really difficult to move forward. And it's today, not tomorrow. As much as we emphasize in collaboration, we will be able to move on. And we believe, and I think it's really important what Nika was saying, in collaboration and not competition. So the takeout from the past 2 days was really that the regulators are not there just to frustrate the fintech, but the fintech also need to understand that if there is no regulation, you may have issues and the system may fail out. And now institutions or organizations like ABAN are there now to push for those investors, and we can scale.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Indeed, key great insights there. Collaboration, partnerships amongst the private sector, the public-private players as well, and also government, which is very important. And that leads us to the regulatory landscape here when it comes to fintech. So in terms of friendly policies in place, like she has cited about Ghana and Rwanda signing a passport partnership here, license passport. So how best can we have friendly policies in place to ensure that even the young startups that are moving all over the continent, they can work anywhere, and also Africa can work together when it comes to the growth of the fintech space?
Looking at this from a regulatory part, or maybe looking at it from the challenges that you could have in fostering innovation for fintechs, I think the very first challenge, which my colleagues have alluded to, is the fact that regulation and innovation is not always on the same page. And that's okay. They don't have to be on the same page, right? Because innovation is like on steroids, regulation is bureaucratic, and bureaucracy has never really been known to break new grounds, right? So I say it's okay that they are not on the same page, but they have to be in the same room. They have to be having conversations. The regulation has to be saying to innovation, these are my concerns. These are the things that worry me about what you're trying to do. And innovation needs to be saying to regulation that these are the problems I'm trying to solve for, right? And one of the other challenges is the fact, like I think it was Lydie that had mentioned it, that there's just, Africa, which is supposed to be like one trade zone, is 54 different trade zones, right? So she mentioned about how easy it is to do business in Rwanda. That's not the case in some other countries. And for a business like ours, Moment Holdings, that we are trying to build a platform that makes and receives payment across about 44 African countries, that's a major challenge. The fact that there is not interoperability of regulation. I was speaking to someone in the SADC region, and he said, if you ask me to do a transaction today from, say, South Africa to any country in the SADC region, I can. I have the infrastructure that can do that. The reason why I'm not doing it is because the regulation does not allow me to. So that interoperability between regulation is something that has been spoken a lot in the last 2 days, and that's something that we need to start building. And that's the beautiful thing about what Ghana and Rwanda has started. So but that's 2 countries out of 54. Hopefully, in not distant time, a lot of other countries will begin to do the same thing and passport these licenses and connect their payment systems to make this thing just a little bit easier. And in terms of challenges, because I'm compliance, risk and compliance is another challenge that fintech companies would run into. The fact that you're trying to ensure that there's efficiency, you're trying to ensure that there's access, right? That's what fintech has done for financial services. But the bad news is that You're not just making it easier for people to access financial services, you're making it easier for financial crimes to happen, right? So the same technology that is making it easier for you to access your account also makes it easier for the fraudster to access your account. The good news is that the problem that technology has created, technology is also solving. So there are a lot of tools in the market. There are AML monitoring tools for transaction monitoring, for transaction filtering, identity verification, sanction screening. All of those things are there to also start to solve some of these problems. So in my view, yes, there are problems, but there are also solutions as well.